Well, what's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of A Track Call Quest. In this episode, we're going to be addressing this area back in here. So we're going to be focusing on the swing arms. We're going to pull these off the spindles. We're going to take a good look at these bearings, make sure they're okay. It's been several years since I've actually serviced these. I think it's been about 5 years. That's number one. And number two, I want to take a really good look at these welds. So I want to take a look at the weld where they welded the spindle onto the bumper. Make sure we ain't got no fractures, no cracks, and make sure we're good to go. So let's get into it. Alright guys, so we're going to remove the gas strut just from the swing arm side. Just like that. Next step, we got to remove this dust cap. So we got to pull that cotter pin off. Oh yeah. Next step is we got to pull off that castle nut. And there is a thrust washer we got to pull out as well. Alright guys, we're looking at the outer bearing there. And that grease looks pretty bad. Alright, let's pull this thing off. Yes. Alright guys, so this Kaymar bumper, it's an older bumper and it uses a 39mm diameter spindle. And that's the portion that actually goes through the bumper. So it was very difficult to find bearings, replacement bearings, because Kaymar does not disclose the bearing number on their website. They sell it as a kit, which is K6032, but there was no information on which bearing they used. You got to measure the spindle right at the shaft here. This one actually measures 1 1/4 inch. Outer shaft, which is the upper portion for this setup, is 3/4 of an inch. So that was pretty cool. Once I got that information, it was like, okay, it's simple. So I bought this will be your inner, in our case, the bottom bearing. And then this one here is the outer or upper bearing for our setup here. And I had no information whatsoever on this seal. I will actually put these part numbers in the description below. So I decided to go to my local marine boat sales place. They also sell a bunch of components and parts for trailers. And that's where I found those bearings. They had a huge aisle and they had a shelf full of bearings and different diameter bearings and sizes, as well as seals. So those guys were a great help. I went to a place called Boatmasters in Livermore, California, and the guys out there were great. They were able to pretty much point me in the right direction as far as bearings go. So one thing that Kaymar actually did very good as far as designing these is these bearings are readily available throughout the world. It's a pretty much universal size setup for all kinds of different trailers that they build and still manufacture till today. Alright guys, we're going to clean off the spindle, get rid of all that old grease, gunk, dirt, water. We're gonna use a wire brush and we're gonna try to get a lot of this scaling and corrosion off of it. Kind of clean it up a little bit. We're gonna take a good look at this weld, make sure we ain't got no fractures or cracks. I'll brush some of this dirt off of it. Don't see anything out of the ordinary. So it's got a good bill of health. Alright guys, we're gonna apply some grease on there. Just like that. We need to pull off the seal and the inner bearing off the hub there. It's got water on it, it's rusted. It smells like the Mojave River. Yeah, these bearings are pretty much shot. You can see there, we have water that's accumulated there. So yeah, that river crossing was deep. Here's our inner race, and you can see there we got minor pitting and scaling there. Just from the bearings sitting in one spot, pretty much sitting in water as well. Alright guys, so I had to install this larger race on the bench because of the configuration of the swing arm. So we're going to apply a little bit of heat on there. Try to square it up as much as we can. Alright, so we bottomed out, and I'll take my race driver spacer to drive the rest home. Okay. Yeah, we're good. You'll see this grease start squeezing out between the bearings there. I like holding the inner race stationary and giving the cage a spin. That'll help coat all those bearings. Install the bearing. Okay guys, so we got the grease seal prepped. Drive this sucker home here. Alright guys, we are ready to install the swing arm back onto the spindle. I actually installed the outer bearing, so it's sitting inside there. We're just going to slide this sucker right on. Just like that. Alright. So we're just going to torque this castle nut down until I feel that the preload is proper. I'm just gonna go by feel. Alright guys, so that's pretty much it right there. It does have a good amount of preload. The drag feels proper, feels good. There's a slight drag, which is what I want. I want to keep this side just a bit tighter due to the tire and the extra weight. So we're ready to install the cotter pin back in place. Okay guys, so I decided to go with this type of dust cap. It's made by Bearing Buddy. These are popular with the boating community, as those trailers see a lot of water. You know, they get ran down the ramp into the water as they launch the boats. So the guy recommended this. I decided to go this route because I had water standing in those hubs. So what's cool about this is I'll be able to service the bearings by adding grease without having to remove the whole assembly. I'll be able to pressurize the hub with a good amount of grease. Let's install it. So we're gonna go with this 103F IPG sealant from Toyota. Alright guys, so now we're gonna install the rubber dust cap.